Okay, welcome back. It's been a little while since I've done one of these videos, but some recent events have come about that have kind of inspired me to do this video for you guys. As you guys know, I used to play pool quite a bit, got pretty good at it, but unfortunately, about a decade ago, life events kind of got in the way, pulled me away from the game, and I haven't played since. Since I moved out here to Idaho, I found a local pool hall where I started playing again about 2 months ago. And when I first started playing, I was pleasantly surprised to see that I could still play the game fairly decently. Not as well as I had hoped I would. So it initiated a 2-month journey to try and get myself back on track to playing the way that I used to. Still not there yet. Still got some work to do. But I am definitely getting closer. There's been some significant improvements in the last couple of months. So, I've been having some fun watching videos on YouTube, reminding myself of certain things that I had forgotten on the table, and purchased some videos from Stefano Palinga that he has that basically demonstrate some of the trick shots that he does. And I got to give a shout out to Florian Kohler, Venom Trick Shots. I'm glad to see that he's doing as well as he is. He's a phenomenal pool player, phenomenal trick shot artist. I met him back during the days of Eric the Preacher Yao's forums. Unfortunately, Eric's not playing pool anymore professionally. He got married, has had a child since then, has gone into real estate, gone to become a lawyer, done some other things. But I learned a lot from Eric Yao's forums, from Venom, or Florian, Andy Siegel, and also Stefano Palinga, and a couple of others that were on YouTube back then doing trick shots and stuff. But one thing I hear a lot of is trick shots are a waste of time when it comes to your regular game of pool. Well, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're full of baloney.
How dare you!
Yes, I said it. You're full of baloney. Trick shots have a lot of benefits to your pool game. There's also some disadvantages that you need to be aware of and be mindful of. And I speak from personal experience from when I was doing this, but the benefits outweigh the disadvantages to it. So I'm going to show you a short video. It's about 3 minutes long. I may cut it short, may not, just because I have some more modern footage. But this video I'm going to show you is from my days down in Florida, back when I was playing all the time, back when I first started learning trick shots, which was like 17 years ago, something like that. I had been in a relationship with somebody. We were living together at the time, and we had an 8-foot pool table, all housing, that I used to practice on all the time. Because back then, I was playing leagues three nights a week, and doing tournaments on the weekend, stuff like that. So I was playing all the time. It was a big part of my life at the time. But anyway, the footage isn't all that great. It's not that clear. But then again, 17 years ago, webcams weren't all that great. and I was literally filming this stuff with the webcam on a laptop. So you can imagine the quality of the video. For that, I apologize. But without further ado, here's a few examples of some of the trick shots I learned back in the day. And if you want to see all of the trick shots that I used to do, you can scroll down to the earliest videos I did on this channel, and you'll see I've got a playlist of the trick shots that I performed, which I think there's like 7 videos in there. But anyway, without further ado, let me show you these trick shots, and then I'll get into explaining why learning trick shots and things like that are going to benefit your pool game, whether that's 8-ball, 9-ball, 10-ball, straight pool, or whatever game you'd like to play. It has benefits, and it does carry over, even contrary to what a lot of people think. So without further ado, here's that video. This was the first full-length video that I actually did. This is a real simple one using some English. You go 3 rails, knock the ball out of the rack, and let the rack fall down on the cue ball. I call this escape from prison because the object ball was frozen to the cue ball on that rail. This is a good shot for force follow and figuring that out and how to use it properly. Here's one for a draw shot, where you make 4 balls, 1 in the side, 2 in these corners, and then a 4th one down in that corner pocket. This is a fun one. I haven't set this one up recently to do it, but I will. Again, another 4-ball shot, another draw shot. Another draw shot, making both balls. And in the actual video on YouTube, there is music to this. Here's jump shot. We got another jump shot using the pockets point in order to jump out of the corner and get free. This is a fun one that I've actually used in an actual game before. Banking that 1 ball over to that side pocket. Here's another one that I've used before in a game. And this is a fun one. This one will, if you try this one will take you several attempts before you get it right and actually get it. But the more you practice these, the better you get at them, the easier it becomes, and you start seeing it take its effect in your real game. This is one that may or may not have any kind of practical use in a game, but nevertheless, you know, it's there. If you got an object ball blocking that pocket that you want to put that 5-ball in, you can do that. Here's another one using the pockets point to get out and escape. Another jump shot. This one I kind of messed up on. They're not supposed to go in those pockets, and of course you want to keep the ball on the cue ball on the table. This one I pulled it off correctly. Here's a massé shot, one of the most simple massé shots that you can perform, but if you've ever found yourself in that position during a game, you know it's a handy tool to have. And the famous hustler massé from the movie The Hustler. And this is one of my favorites here. I have a modern version that I completed it successfully the other day, that I'll show you in a little bit. The machine gun massé, the rainbow massé, which is part of the WPA program for their tournaments. This is one that I created. I called the pie shot. The reason I called it the pie shot is because it, quite frankly, it forms the shape of pi, you know, the mathematical symbol pi. But anyway, those are some of the trick shots that I used to do. And back when I was learning trick shots, I was ranked a 5 in the APA. And I had reached a point where I had grown pretty stagnant in my game. It wasn't improving. It wasn't getting worse. I was just pretty steady, and I couldn't figure it out. But fortunately, we had a 7 on the team, and he started working with me and trying to help me understand certain concepts within the game and stuff, especially like pattern play, understanding my stroke and how to try to improve that in various ways. He was also helping me learn speed control as well. Give me a second. And despite that, my game was still kind of stagnant, and I couldn't figure out why, and neither could he. So when I started learning the trick shots, that's when I truly started understanding what a pure stroke really felt like. And it was because of doing trick shots like the ones I just showed you that brought me to that understanding, and caused me to be able to do those shots that you saw there, that I was then able to take to the pool table. And within a matter of 3 months, I went from a 5 to a 7. And once I got to be a 7, I stayed there until I stopped playing pool. I think it was about 4 years after that I stopped playing the APA and started playing in the ABL, which is the American Billiards League, which was something that's primarily on the East Coast, I think. But nevertheless, I still had some fun. Competition was great. But my skill level never dropped after that, and it just kept improving and improving and improving and improving beyond that. And so, that's, for me, it made a huge difference in the way that I play the game. It made a huge difference in the way I saw things on the table. It made a huge difference in my ability to see patterns. It made a huge difference in my ability to see escapes when my opponent would leave me hooked, or I mishit a shot and ended up leaving myself hooked. And the amazing part about it is that if you can master, or at least get proficient with the skills required to do trick shots, then you will see huge improvement in your kicking, your banking, and your ability to escape. Using things like kicks, banks, jump shots, masse shots. All these things weigh in on your ability to be able to escape being hooked. And the more proficient you get at them, the better you're going to become at escaping. Now, I say this, I'm going to tell you a quick funny story before I start showing you some other stuff here. But about 4 years before I had to stop playing due to life issues and responsibilities and things that took precedence, I had played in a tournament on a Saturday with a gentleman who was considered one of the best in town. Probably like the top 20% in town. And he had left me hooked with the 8-ball and 2 of his object balls that were all frozen together. And he had somehow managed to get the cue ball nudged up within like 1/8 of an inch of all 3 of these balls. My last object ball was on the opposite end of the table. Every kick angle, every bank angle was cut off. I was way too close to his object balls to be able to jump. So that's when my ability to do jump shots, masse shots, and all that stuff in my escape game came into play. And I took a minute to assess the situation, look at things, and try and figure something out. I thought about trying to kick at the object ball, but no matter how I came at it, I wasn't going to hit the third rail in the right place to be able to make contact with my object ball, which was basically one diamond from the corner on the short rail, 2 diamonds from the corner on the long rail. And there, I had no angle to be able to kick at it and be able to successfully hit it. So I decided to do a massé out of it. Like the massé that I told you was one of my favorites, where you kick off the rail and it comes around the balls, curves back and drops the ball in the corner. Well, that shot came to mind. So I positioned myself in such a way that I could get over the ball, which was kind of difficult to begin with, and I had to put myself in a rather awkward position to do it. But I ended up shooting the cue ball with a masse shot at, I think it was about a 7:30, 8 o'clock-ish type hit on the cue ball, and sent it into the long rail, then hit the short rail, and as it bounced out and came to the middle of the table, it curved back and went down and made contact with my last object ball, which sent it toward the pocket, and it bobbled in the pocket. Well, somehow this guy managed to hook me in the same position a second time after he pocketed a couple more balls and left me in the same position again. I looked down and I said, "What, you didn't learn from the first time?" And he just kind of gave me this puzzled look and he said, "I just wanted to see if you could do it a second time." So I was like, okay. So I got up, did the same shot, kicked it off the long rail, hit the short rail, bounced off, curved back, dropped my last object ball. And when the cue ball settled, I was situated in just the right spot where I could get a good solid hit on the 8 ball, force it through both of his object balls, and pocketed the 8 ball in the place that I called it, and won that match and knocked him out of the tournament. After that match, he refused to even speak to me for 2 years after that, and then refused to play me in any kind of tournament or league play in which our names came up for a match. To this day, I don't know why, but after a couple of years, things settled down. He started talking to me again, and we started playing pool again. But anyway, I just wanted to give you that as an example, because if I hadn't been studying trick shots and practicing them and performing them for a few years prior to that particular tournament, I wouldn't have been able to do anything, and I would have given up ball in hand and probably lost that match. So it was my ability to see the table from a trick shot perspective and my ability to be able to perform that trick shot that won me that match in that tournament. I ended up going on to place second in that tournament, which had some really stiff competition in it. So I was really pleased with that. But anyway, that's the story of how the trick shots have benefited my gameplay and what it did for me back when I was doing those all the time. I'm now practicing, getting back into form, relearning the game, getting my feel for the game back again. It's not where I want to be just yet, but I'm definitely on my way. And with that said, let me show you a video that I made just recently. As a matter of fact, in the last couple of weeks, took a couple of days to do some trick shots, do some shooting on the pool table, just, regular practice type stuff, doing some drills, working on getting the feel for my stroke back again, working on my aim and that sort of stuff. But anyway, here's some of what I've been able to pull off and do so far just in the last month. So here we see that jump shot again, where you make the two balls in the lower corner pockets. Now, mind you, this is a diamond bar box. So the angles on this table are very different from the 8-foot table that I learned the trick shots on, and very different from the 9-foot tables that I had practiced these on. Now, this is a jump to cut the one ball into the corner pocket. So, the angles are very different. The table plays slightly differently. So there are adjustments that have to be made when you're learning these trick shots, depending on the size of table that you're on. Now, here's another example with the cue ball, 8-ball frozen together, frozen in the pocket, like you saw in the original video I showed you from years back. I throw the object balls out there just to show this blocking, so there's no way to kick at it. And then you got that simple masse, bam, game one. Another way to deal with this is to put a lot of left English on this, so that it puts a little bit of right spin on the 8-ball when you come out of the pocket, and that little bit of spin actually throws that 8-ball into the pocket, like you saw there. Now here's another masse, another basic masse, one of the more simple masses. It's one of the first ones that I learned. With the 2 balls frozen in the pocket, that was the first one I learned. This was the second one that I learned. These are some of the easiest shots to learn when it comes to doing masse. But how many times have you found yourself in this position in a pool game? How many times have you found yourself in that position with your opponent having all their balls on the table because you've just broke and ran down to the 8-ball, and now you're stuck in this and there's traffic all over the table? Well, this simple little masse shot can save your run out. Here's another one that I experienced in an actual game where I had run a couple balls off the table from the break and then missed a shot because I accidentally kissed up against another ball. My opponent ran 3 balls off the table and left me in this position after missing the 11 ball that you see down here. So all the kick angles are taken away. It's so close that I didn't feel comfortable jumping, so I masse. And just to show that it wasn't a mistake, I'm doing it a second time. But this time I actually hit it a little bit better and make better, proper contact with it. And in neither case did I scratch. So this is where I start getting into teaching on this one. So I'm going to pause this for a second. And the reason that I have this training cue ball up here is so that I can illustrate and demonstrate the most misunderstood part of doing a masse or jump shot. And that's your what do I call it? The plane of aim, okay? So doing a normal pull shot, this is what you would see for your plane of aim, how you're aiming at the cue ball, where you're going to hit the cue ball, how you're aiming the cue ball. So if you notice that 12 to 6 line going from high spin to low spin, that's straight up and down, and it's lined up with the angle that I'm aiming this cue ball at in order to avoid the 15 ball. All right. So that's the direction you want to send the cue ball in before it curves. But the thing about doing a masse shot and a jump shot that people mess up on a lot and don't fully comprehend don't fully comprehend and understand is that when you elevate your cue, your plane of aim also elevates. Now, once I get this camera situated, here we go. So as you elevate your cue, and for doing this masse shot, I'm going to about 70 to 80 degrees. So I have to rotate that cue ball to see that plane of aim, right? And that's where a lot of people make their mistake with the jump shots and the masse shots. They don't rotate that plane in their mind to know where on the cue ball to actually strike in order to get the proper spin to pull off the masse shots, or where on the cue ball to hit the appropriate spot to get the cue ball to bounce off the table. So that's one of the key elements to doing these shots, is that plane of aim rotates on the ball as your cue elevates or lowers, whichever way. So if this is the plane, right, that you're aiming at, if you elevate your cue, then that plane is going to rotate upwards, right? If you lower your cue, then it's going to rotate downwards back to its original state. So you keep that in mind. That's one of the key elements of doing these shots. And I'll let this play out so you can see the rest of it. So with this, I'm looking to hit somewhere around that 4:30, 5 o'clock mark in order to get the proper spin on it. Here I didn't have quite enough speed, so I actually hit the object ball. Now here, I'm going to demonstrate how you actually aim these shots and know and understand where the cue ball is going to go. So here I'm setting up my aim point in order to clear the 14 ball so I don't hit it. Here I'm finding the angle of approach to the 8 ball that I want the cue ball to take. And then I parallel that angle over to the cue ball. So here I'm finding the line of aim and setting up the high to low, that 12 to 6 o'clock line in that direction. Here I'm finding the angle of approach I want to take to the 8 ball, and then paralleling that over to the cue ball and finding the point at which I need to make contact in order to get that spin. All right, which again is sitting right there about that 4:30, 4 o'clock mark. And then it's a matter of getting the proper speed. Here I didn't have enough speed, so I made a little contact with the 14 ball before dropping the 8. So then I wipe off the chalk mark, having seen where I actually made contact with it. Now I try it again. And this time, again, I didn't have quite enough speed. I had the proper spin, but I didn't have quite enough speed. So I look at where I struck the cue ball and make sure that I was hitting the right space. Set the shot up again. Try it again. And this time I had too much speed. Right spin, too much speed. Wipe the chalk mark off again, set up, hit it in the same spot. Adjust the speed, still a little too much speed. Wipe the chalk mark off again. Set it up. Now mind you, this entire time, I'm thinking about my speed, I'm thinking about where I'm hitting the cue ball, and all the things that I've gone over so far in order to make this shot happen. Anybody thinks they're going to do a trick shot and pull it off on their first attempt? Delusional. You may get lucky and do it, but to do it consistently like this, it takes time and it takes practice. See, in that time I got the speed right and made contact with the cue ball in the appropriate place, and everything worked out, and I dropped the 8-ball. Remember I said I was looking to hit that 430 mark, 430 mark? There it is. All the way out there at the on the verge of miscuing. And here's that repeat of the draw shot, dropping 4. Here's that follow shot again. And that shot's come up in games too. There's also another shot that I used to do on a regular basis and I love doing. I'll tell you about it here in a minute. But here, another draw shot, 4 balls, one in the left side, left corner, the bottom corner, and then one over on the right side pocket. And I think there's one more after this one. Yeah, my favorite massé. So again, coming off the rail before the spin kicks in and takes it back to drop the 9. And that's that for that video. So, and the trick shot that I was talking about before is you've got an object ball in a corner pocket, cue ball sitting on the short rail somewhere in a straight line with that object ball, and then another object ball on the same rail at the opposite end of the table, and using roughly 830 type English on the cue ball. So you got a little bit of draw with a whole lot of left spin. You do a 3/4 to a half ball hit on the object ball closest to the cue ball, and that cue ball will run the full length of the rail to pocket the object ball in the other corner. So I know if you're not used to these and you don't see how it could play into a regular pool game, but trust me, I've used a great number of these trick shots that I've learned in an actual pool game, and they made the difference between me winning or losing. So I have a few other, images and slides that I want to show you that will also help understand the massé side of things. So as I was explaining earlier, how I aim the shot, how I get the desired angle of approach, and to figure out where on the cue ball that I want to hit to make that particular shot. This kind of lays it out in a nice little diagram for you, with an actual object ball, not a training cue ball. So this whole time I'm actually envisioning this path of the cue ball in the process of doing this. And so you got your aim line here, your desired angle of approach, you parallel that over to your cue ball, and that shows you where on the cue ball you need to hit in order to get this desired final angle of approach. And then it's just a matter of getting the right speed to get the cue ball out and around your object ball before it starts to make the curve. That's one of the key points to all of this, as far as the massé, which is known as, I believe, I think it's the Coriolis effect, which is basically what this diagram is showing. Dr. Dave talks about Gustav Coriolis and this whole principle when it comes to doing the massés, and does a much better job of explaining it than I do. I'm more of an intuitive play by feel type person. So while I understand some of the science, and some of the science has helped me to understand how to do the shot, once you understand the science and how to do the shot, where to aim, how you're hitting the cue ball, how the physics are affected and all of that, based on this Coriolis principle, then it all becomes a matter of feel, matter of touch, matter of experience on the table, and being able to pull some of these shots off successfully. So that's why I recommend that people learn the trick shots and practice the trick shots. And I'll give you break down some more reasons for it later. Give me just a second. I'm having a Charlie horse in my hamstring. Anyway, so this kind of breaks down, this diagram breaks down that Coriolis principle in a visual aspect, showing you from the side view what else going on, where you're aiming your cue to as far as your contact point, where on the table the cue ball the cue is pointing at, and also the point of contact the cue ball has with the table. It shows that relationship, as well as, over here, and showing and demonstrating the curve that gets created from striking the cue ball in this fashion. And then, like I was mentioning earlier when I was demonstrating that shot about having too much speed or too little speed, this is a chart that breaks that down. So here you can see basically a 4:30 to 5 o'clock type hit. And this is a scenario you've probably found yourself in 100 times shooting the game of pool, right? Where you've got object balls blocking you, blocking your approach through kicks or banks or anything else, trying to get to this one ball. So this is where the massé would come into play, all right? You go through that process I showed you of aiming, figuring out your angles, where you're going to strike the cue ball, what kind of English you're going to put on it. And then it's a matter of speed. So as you can see here, if you got too little speed, then the cue ball curves too early, too soon, and you end up hitting that 4-ball. If you have too much speed, then it starts to curve too late, and you end up missing everything entirely, or hitting the 9 or the 3 before you hit the 1. But if you get that speed just right, and you come in, you hit the 1 ball and you pocketed it, and don't scratch, right? So that's one of the ways that these kind of shots will benefit you. Like I mentioned earlier, that story that I told you, right? It was having done my favorite massé shot that I kicked off a 1 rail to pocket that 9 ball in the opposite corner. It was that shot that came to mind when I found myself hooked behind those 3 balls that my opponent had put me in that tournament. But it was that shot that came to mind, and it was that shot that literally saved me in that tournament. So without further ado, let me get on with the benefits and cautions that I have for people when it comes to learning trick shots. So first, I'm going to go over the benefits. And one of those benefits is the fact that it will help you improve your stroke. In order to perform any of these trick shots, you have to have a good stroke. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts about it. You have to have a good stroke. If you don't, you're not pulling these shots off. Another benefit is improved confidence. When you start successfully pulling off these trick shots, your confidence will grow in your ability on the table. And when you start getting into matches and you start seeing some of these trick shots show up in your matches, and you know you can pull that shot off, what do you think that does for your confidence? It shoots it through the roof. And not only does it improve your confidence, but at the same time, it also has kind of a demoralizing effect on your opponent. Because now your opponent's sitting there thinking, what do I got to do to snooker this guy? What do I have to do to put this guy in jail to slow him down? Or girl, whichever the case may be. But you get the point. Your confidence improves because you know there's not a shot on the table now that you're incapable of pulling off. You know you can make that shot. Why? Because you've done it 100 times before. So doing these trick shots, understanding how they work, setting them up, doing all that kind of stuff, getting a good stroke, all that kind of stuff, man, it boosts your confidence level. And there's nothing on the table you'll be afraid of at that point. And another benefit is you have improved shot vision. Like I was just saying, you'll be on the table and everybody will be sitting there looking at that going, I don't know what the heck he's going to do. Or she. And then you sit there and you look at the table and all of a sudden one of these trick shots come to mind and you're like, I see a way out. You thought you had me hooked. Well, watch this. And then you make the shot and you keep going. And it saves your run out. And your opponent's sitting there going, what did I get myself into? Who is this guy? Right? So you'll see things on the table you wouldn't have seen before. And there's been many instances where seeing a shot where I would have normally not seen the shot has truly saved a run out and saved a match. So another benefit to this is an improved escape game. Main thing I've been talking about this whole time. You get hooked, you either hook yourself or your opponent hooks you, and there doesn't seem to be a way out. And you've done these trick shots, you've practiced them, you've gotten good at them. You can successfully complete them, within 1, 2, 3 attempts. Some every single time you try it. Then your escape game is going to improve so much. People will stop trying to defense you because they think it's pointless. I'm just saying. How many times have you seen somebody try to snooker Efren Reyes? And how many times has Efren Reyes gotten out of it? After a while, people stopped defensing quite so much against Efren Reyes because it was pointless. So that's it, and especially at the amateur level. If they're defensing you left and right, or they've put you in a defensive position that they think there's absolutely no way out of, and you find your way out of it, eventually they just give up. And they quit trying to defend you because they think it's pointless. So now it's turned it back into a game that you're more comfortable playing, of who can run the balls out first. And it becomes fun. It becomes more entertaining. Once if you get to a point where just playing regular pool gets boring and you start doing these trick shots, the game of pool itself becomes far more entertaining at that point because of stuff that happens on the table and off the table. So, yeah, your escape game goes through the roof after you learn some of these trick shots. Another benefit is you end up gaining a greater understanding of tangent lines and how those come into play in the game. Yes, once you've hit, 5, 6, 7, Fargo, 500, 600, 700, tangent lines, you understand them, right? But doing these trick shots, when you're setting these stuff up and you're having to make sure that the line of centers goes here or the tangent line goes here, and then you make contact with those balls and you see the effect that that has, it develops a certain understanding within from an experiential standpoint that you won't necessarily get just from book learning or someone telling you, hey, this tangent line is going to cause this cue ball to go that direction, or it's going to cause this object ball to go that direction. You're setting the stuff up, you're seeing it for yourself, and you're performing the shot for yourself. So you get a feel for what different speeds, what kind of effect different speeds and different types of cue ball strikes have on those tangent lines and on those lines of center. So let's say you have two object balls frozen together, right? And one, and the way that they're situated, you have your object ball is behind the one closest to you, but they're situated in such a way where if you cut your object ball without hitting your opponent's object ball, and that ball barely misses the pocket, like hitting just outside the pocket's point on the pocket, then after doing these trick shots, you understand that if you put the appropriate English on that shot and shoot it at a certain speed, you're going to increase the amount of throw on that object ball and pocket the ball, even when it doesn't seem like it's pocketable. But it really is, using the proper physics. And let's say you have a combination shot that's just a hair off, right? So it's they're lined up and they're going to the pocket, but that front object ball you're trying to pocket is probably going to hit the pocket's point and most likely bobble out. Well, if you put the proper English on it, you can get that ball to drop. And these trick shots can show you those kind of things. And if the tangent line is right on that combination shot that you're using that spin on to throw the front ball into that closest pocket, is set up correct, is set up in just the right way, there's a potential you could make that first object ball in that combination in another pocket because of the use of that spin and the combination of the tangent line. So then you start seeing all these relationships tying in together, and that opens your eyes, like I mentioned earlier, opens your eyes to shots you wouldn't have seen before. So your shot vision expands with a greater understanding of the tangent lines. Another benefit to it is understanding the throw, which I kind of mentioned just then. So understanding the throw, understanding the tangent lines, understanding how the spin affects the balls, doing these trick shots. Well, like I said, it's all tied in together. It's all one big relationship. And you get one thing right, and you get you get all these elements right, and the stuff you'll pull off on a pool table will amaze you. Just amaze you. Right? And it's really not that complicated. If you learn it step by step by step by step, and learn these things gradually over time as your skill develops and you get better and better and better and better with these shots, man, the pool table becomes your playground. It's like, what can I pull off today? It becomes a very entertaining game, which brings me to the next benefit of improved shot making. You pull these shots off and you practice these shots and you get proficient at them. You'll see angles, you'll see tangent lines, you'll understand throw, you'll understand spin. I mean, in ways that you only dreamed of prior to. And these trick shots will help you get there and help you get there quicker. Another benefit, greater vision for patterns, right? You can see these patterns, right? Especially 6s and 7s, you can see them really well. Your 3s, 4s, 5s, they see some patterns, but not all patterns. These trick shots it will even open their eyes to other patterns and expand their pattern recognition, so to speak. Just like the game that some people play, the Hill card game, right? They're basically drills that help you understand patterns and how to run those patterns out and get better at doing that sort of thing, right? Well, doing trick shots has the same effect. Because when you step up to the table and you see a problem ball, right? A problem ball. Ooh, other way. There we go. Getting used to this again. But a problem ball, right? You do these trick shots and you become a better shot maker. You'll stop seeing balls as problem balls. Okay? And it'll get to a point where you'll come up to the table and you'll see those patterns and you won't even give it a second thought of how you're going to break that ball out or how you're going to break that cluster out or how you're going to get position on this particular ball on the pocket that has another ball in front of it. It's just, you're going to look at it. You're going to recognize it. And you're going to approach the table with an attitude of,
yo, she bitch. Let's go.
It ain't going to phase you, man. It ain't going to phase you. And next thing you know, you're going to pull out that cue and you're going to be like,
This is my boomstick.
and then when you get on that table and you go after it and you start pocketing one ball after another, after another, after another, after another, you're going to sit back and go, wow. You know, I mean, seriously, the trick shots will do this to you. It'll make you a better shot maker. It'll give you greater confidence, improve your shot vision, improve your vision of patterns, and improve your understanding of spin and how that cue ball is going to work its way around the table based on the kind of spin that you put. Whether you put a half a tip, a whole tip, tip and a half, 2 tips, two and a half tips, or 3 tips worth of English, or even 3.5 tips if you've got a small diameter shaft, right? And the more you do these shots and the more you see that kind of spin and the more you see what that spin does and what you are capable of doing once you're able to do those things, brother, oh, you will find yourself working around traffic in ways that you didn't think was possible before. And runouts that you thought weren't possible suddenly become possible. And it opens up a game and a world within the game that very few people truly come to understand and appreciate and enjoy. And trick shots are one way of accomplishing that. I mean, take a look at some of your Hall of Famers, some of the great names like Mike Masse, Earl Strickland, Stefano Plinga, Efren Reyes. Right? Mike Masse, for a prime example, he played 8-ball, 9-ball, 10-ball, straight pull, 3 cushion. I mean, you name it, the man did it. And look at how good he was. trick shots benefit your game. I have never in my lifetime, almost 55 years now, I have never in my lifetime met a good pool player who didn't know trick shots of some kind. And when I say good, I'm talking like, say Fargo score 700 plus. I've never met one that did not have some knowledge of some trick shot somewhere in their bag. Never met one. Never met one. So somebody tells you that trick shots don't benefit your pool game, all I've got to say is because they're just full of crap. Blow that mess up. All right, because it will benefit your game. All right. And the last one that I want to bring up that I've already kind of mentioned is it will improve your enjoyment of the game. Okay, because and even if it's not during a tournament, not during league play, and it's just you and your buddies hanging out at the pool hall, shooting pool, wanting to have a good time, even if you're just practicing or whatever, right? Doing these trick shots, it can be rather entertaining, right? Especially if you start trying to teach somebody else how to do a particular trick shot, and then you watch them struggle with it the way you struggled with it when you first started learning it. It can be rather entertaining. Plus, if your friends are as good as you are, and you're 6s, 7s, Fargo's 600 plus, and you're doing these trick shots on the table, you can make a fun little friendly, betting game off of it. Hey, if you can make this shot within 3 attempts, I'll buy you a beer or whatever, there's a lot of enjoyment that can come to the game for you through trick shots, both in tournament, in league, just horsing around. It'll keep you entertained, keep your love of the game going, no matter what. So the next thing I want to mention to you, because I know I've been fluffing these trick shots up and glorifying them big time for you ever so far, but there are some cautions. There are some cautions that I will give you. All right, necessary cautions, because they can cause some problems in your regular game too if you're not mindful of them. One of those is being overly aggressive. All right. Just because you know the shot doesn't mean you have to take the shot. You have to weigh the pros and cons. You have to weigh the situation. Is the risk worth the reward, or is the reward not worth the risk? You understand what I'm saying? Just because you see it, and most good pool players, most 6s, 7s, Fargo's 600 plus, they already know this. They already know that just because you can see the shot doesn't mean you necessarily need to take the shot. But because it does build your confidence and your enjoyment in the game and your skill in the game, it can produce an element where you become overly aggressive with your gameplay. Just be mindful of that. Know that that can happen, and make sure that you're putting a check on yourself, and you're only doing the shots when the reward outweighs the risk. All right. Successfully pulling it off means you get a greater reward than you have a detriment from the risk. Okay? So just be mindful of that and keep that in mind so you don't become overly aggressive with your game. Along with that, you can get to a point where you overuse of spin. All right? Just because you know the spin and know how to use it, know how to get the cue ball around the table to get it where you want it to go, doesn't mean you necessarily have to use it on every shot. A good example of somebody who really doesn't use a whole lot of spin at all, really, is a gentleman by the name of Drew that I just recently started watching and have subscribed to his channel. Part of the reason that I'm making this video. When you watch his matches, the man very seldom ever uses any kind of spin whatsoever. And when he does use spin, by his own admission, and from a diagram he created to put in one of his videos, he might go half tip to one full tip worth of spin on a shot. He's fantastic when it comes to position play. He's fantastic when it comes to speed control. A lot of positive elements to his game. But he doesn't use spin in ways and in situations where he could use it and it would be more beneficial in the outcome for him. So you don't need spin to play the game and be good at it. But if you want to take your game to the next level, then you need to understand how to use spin and how to use it properly. And trick shots can help you do that. But at the same time, be cautious that you're not overusing the spin because not every shot requires spin. In fact, I would be willing to say that probably 60% of the shots on a pool table that you're going to encounter in any given match don't require any spin at all. Just a center ball hit or a rolling hit or a stun shot are going to be the most common shots that you're going to take during a regular game of pool. However, knowing when a shot requires spin or when your position requires spin, you need to know how to use it and how much to use and the proper speed and how to aim that shot in order to pocket the ball that you're trying to get. All right? Because once you go to take that shot, everything else needs to be out of your head because you've already decided what you're going to do, and you get down on that shot and you take that shot, right? So your focus is on that shot. You should have already made the decision what kind of spin you're going to use in order to get your position for your next ball prior to getting down on the shot. So at that point, you've already decided on all the elements. You're down, you aim the shot the way you need to, you stroke it with the speed that you need to, and then you get up after that ball's been pocketed, and you see that the cue ball ended up where you wanted it to. It's a very rewarding feeling. But, like I said, don't overuse the spin, right? There are times to use it and times not to, and trick shots will help you understand the difference. Which brings me to don't overcomplicate your shots. Overcomplicating shots can cause you to miss shots, right? If you throw spin on a shot where you don't need spin, you've overcomplicated the shot. If you can take the shot with just a simple cut, then why would you not take the simple cut over going 3 rails to get to the same ball to make the same cut? So don't overcomplicate the shots. Be mindful of that. Yes, you have the confidence. Yes, you have the shot making ability. Yes, you can pull off miracles, or what Drew would call a hero shot. Yes, you can do it. Does it mean you need to? Does it mean you should? That's what you need to decide when you're playing the game. If it means the difference between getting out and winning or losing, maybe it's time to consider a defense. Maybe it's time to consider a different shot. Maybe you picked the wrong pattern and you just need to take your medicine. These are all things that you need to take into consideration. Again, do the benefits, the rewards outweigh the risks? If they do, take the shot. If they don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. The more simple you keep it, the less you have to move the cue ball, the better. But having the ability to do all these other things can make a huge difference. Know when to use them, know when to not to use them, all right? Using too much speed, okay? Some of these trick shots, some of the trick shots that you'll do require quite a bit of speed to pull off and to pull off successfully. Especially when you start talking about having to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rails. Like, for example, doing the 8-rail championship shot where you send the cue ball 8 rails and get it to stop on a $1 bill that sits between the corner pocket and the first diamond on the short rail. If you've ever seen that perform, man, that takes a heck of a stroke and a whole lot of speed. All right. So you can get to a point where you start using too much speed for your shots, which can be detrimental, especially on diamond tables or tables with tight pockets or tables that have their pockets shimmed or double shimmed or triple shimmed. Like when I was in Florida, I used to play on 9-foot tables that had the pockets triple shimmed. So it literally took it from a 4.5-inch pocket and took it down to, I think it was 3.75-inch pocket. So yeah, it narrowed the angles, made the pockets extremely tight. I mean, you couldn't even get a ball and a half in those pockets. All right. But you had to be accurate. And that was the one thing that I was thankful for, was the accuracy level. Now, if you knew you had a shot that you could put dead center of the pocket and you knew you weren't going to miss it, but you needed some speed on it to be able to get it around the table, then by all means you do it. But if you've got a steeper angle to it and more narrow angle, then you're going to have to slow that down. And you're going to have to use spin to get your position while maintaining a pocket speed shot, so that when that ball hits the inside of the pocket, it doesn't rattle back out because it hit the titties. It hits the inside of the pocket, just inside of the pocket points or the titties, and actually drops. Even if it bobbles a bit and then drops. You get it into the pocket with that pocket speed, using the spin to get your position. And now you start understanding the importance of speed along with the combination of everything else, and understanding the relationship on the shots, which is why it makes you a better shot maker by doing these trick shots. But it can give you the tendency to use too much speed on the pool table during a regular game. So those are my cautions, as far as the game aspect itself while you're learning these trick shots. Be careful that you don't use too much speed on your shots. Be careful not to overcomplicate the shots. Don't overuse the spin, and try not to be overly aggressive. Those are the key cautionary tales concerning learning trick shots. Otherwise, as you can see, the benefits of learning trick shots outweigh the risks. So that's why I encourage anyone that I teach or anyone that I mentor in the game of pool to learn trick shots. Learn trick shots because they will help you quite a bit. And just to reiterate what those benefits are, I'm going to put that list back up here and run through it. It helps you improve your stroke. Oh, and one other thing that'll help you improve your stroke that some people know about, but a good majority of people don't, is the bottle drill. I know it sounds crazy. It's like, what's the bottle drill? Well, it's very simple. You take a Coke bottle, beer bottle, or something that has that kind of radius on the neck, and you lay it down on the table. You don't even have to be at a pool hall to do this. You can set it on the counter at home and do this. But you set it on the counter, and you get into your pool position, your shot making position, and you stroke the cue into the bottle with your eyes open, and you do that 30 times. The whole time you're doing that, take note of how your body feels, how that stroke feels, what your arm is doing, how that arm feels, etc., etc., etc. And you just keep putting it inside that neck, right through the opening, inside the neck. And you don't have to go very far, just an inch, 2 inches inside the bottle, just so long as you get past that threshold on the neck at the opening. And you stroke it that way 30 times with your eyes open. Once you've successfully done it 30 times with your eyes open, then you close your eyes. And you try to get to 30 times with your eyes closed, putting that Q-tip inside the bottle, 1 to 2 inches, 30 times without moving that bottle. And you do that for 30 minutes a day for 30 days. The amount of improvement in your stroke is undescribable. And that will help you pull off these trick shots. So, improved stroke, you have improved confidence, you have an improved shot vision, you have an improved escape game, you have a greater tangent line understanding, you have greater understanding of throw, you have an improved shot making, you have greater vision for patterns, and you'll improve your understanding of spin, and it will increase your enjoyment of the game. So, with all that said, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was informative to you. If you'd like to see more of these videos, or you would like to see something more specific, or instructionals on how to pull off certain shots or whatever, feel free to let me know. Leave a comment, leave a text message. And personally, I would be interested in hearing your opinion on the stuff that I've said here today. Obviously, you're probably not going to change my opinion on it because of my personal experience with this, but I would still like to hear your thoughts, your opinions, what you think about what I've said today, and whether or not you think it'll help your game. And I'd also love very much if you guys started to learn how to do trick shots and then started posting some videos, or at least coming back and giving me some feedback on your progress and how you're doing and what you've learned and how it's affected your game. I would love to hear that. So if you would, do the typical thing, like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that sort of thing. But yeah, I would be very interested in seeing y'all's opinion, y'all's thoughts, and what you thought of my presentation. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.